In the following video, a seemingly innocent interactive display at a children's museum manages to capture something it was never designed to see. The person filming is just passing the time, messing around with a thermal imaging exhibit. As he holds his hand up to the lens, his body heat registers normally in bright, warm colors. But it's what happens in the background of the screen that has left viewers completely baffled. Lying completely motionless on the floor is a dark blue, human-shaped silhouette. Confused, the man pans his camera away from the monitor and points it directly at the physical floor in front of him, only to reveal that the space is entirely empty. Watch. In paranormal investigations, thermal cameras are heavily utilized because entities are believed to drain ambient heat from their environment in order to manifest. This sudden energy drain creates drastic, localized cold spots. Because the figure on this screen is registering as a deep, solid blue, it means whatever is lying there is significantly colder than the ambient temperature of the room. But what makes this footage truly compelling is the input from people who work with this exact technology every single day. One viewer, who uses thermal imaging professionally, pointed out a crucial detail. While a living person will leave behind a lingering warm imprint on a surface after they get up, a shadow or a trick of the light will never leave behind a lingering cold spot. If a person had just been lying on the floor as a prank moments before the video started, the screen would show a residual yellow or red outline, not a freezing blue void. Whatever this camera is picking up, it defies the normal rules of residual body heat, and it certainly isn't a shadow. Did this museum exhibit accidentally capture the heavy imprint of a spirit tethered to that spot on the floor? Or is this just a highly unusual glitch in the system? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the next clip, we take a look at a deeply unsettling piece of home security footage that proves you never really know what is wandering around your property when you aren't there. The homeowner shared this video with a very specific disclaimer. The camera is set up inside the house, looking out through the front window, and the family is currently away on vacation. Every single light inside the house is supposed to be completely off, but as the footage rolls, something inexplicable happens. Pay attention to the glowing mass that appears on the right side of the screen and notice the bizarre blue flash reflecting against the glass. Since the camera is positioned indoors, that light is reflecting from behind the lens, meaning something illuminated inside the dark, empty house. Take a look. There is a lot to unpack here, especially when considering how the camera's system actually reacted to the event. The homeowner perfectly described the glowing mass, noting that it initially looks like footsteps, then starts floating. If you watch closely, it elongates and shifts before morphing into a solid orb and drifting intentionally across the yard. While skeptics are usually quick to dismiss floating anomalies like this as simple dust particles or tiny bugs catching the infrared light, there is one massive detail that makes this much harder to explain away. The homeowner confirmed that this glowing mass actually triggered the camera's motion detector. Security systems are typically calibrated to ignore small, close-up particles like dust, requiring something with actual physical mass or a significant heat signature to trip the sensor. The shape-shifting nature of this anomaly, combined with the triggered motion alert and that unexplained blue flash inside the home, makes this a highly compelling piece of footage. Was this just a heavy speck of dust drifting on an indoor draft that somehow managed to trick the system? Or did this camera catch a genuine spirit roaming the property while the owners were away? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In this clip, we witness what happens when a subtle haunting rapidly escalates into a full-blown, violent infestation. Most people set up indoor security cameras to give themselves peace of mind while they are away. But for this homeowner, those cameras ended up capturing the exact opposite. The timeline of this activity is what makes it so deeply unsettling. It shows an entity testing its boundaries and gaining strength. The activity begins in the living room while the house is completely empty. The ceiling fan suddenly turns itself on, spinning for a few moments before stopping. To rule out a random electrical glitch or a draft, the light attached to the fan actually switches on and off exactly as the blades come to a halt. This is a deliberate manipulation of the electrical current. Then, in the background, a closet door slowly creaks open and clicks shut entirely on its own. Watch.
What is going on in my house when I'm not home?
In paranormal research, entities often start small to test the waters and build up kinetic energy. Whatever has invaded this home quickly realized it was being watched, and the physical manipulation only grows stronger. That same closet door continues to act up, but the entity begins interacting with much heavier objects. The tablecloth is noticeably tugged by an invisible force, and a heavy wooden dining bench is dragged across the floor. Moving solid wood takes a significant amount of energy, proving this is no longer just a passive spirit.
It's happening again.
By the next day, things cross the line from creepy anomalies into highly aggressive, chaotic poltergeist activity. The energy in the house completely shifts. Multiple dining chairs are violently pulled away from the table, the bench is dragged once again, and the door repeatedly slams. Even smaller objects become projectiles, as a tissue box is aggressively pulled across the living room carpet. Moments later, the homeowner walks into the frame, completely baffled by the inexplicable, terrifying mess left behind in an empty house.
It's getting more intense.
While moving furniture is terrifying, coming face to face with the entity is a completely different level of nightmare. In this next part, the man's son is hanging out in his room when that same problematic door slowly swings open, but this time it isn't an invisible force. According to the family, the son actually saw a distinct, terrifying face peering back at him from the dark space in the closet. His blood-curdling scream as he bolts downstairs in absolute terror tells you everything you need to know about what was looking at him. At this point, the house is an absolute powder keg. On a separate day, the son is just trying to distract himself and regain some sense of normalcy by playing video games. But the entity decides to make it completely clear that they are no longer welcome there. As objects start shifting and moving around him once again, he finally reaches his breaking point, drops what he's doing, and gets the hell out of there.
Daddy, it's happening again. Daddy? Daddy? I don't like this. Daddy, I don't like this. Daddy?
When you look at this specific pattern of escalation, it raises a terrifying question. What exactly is living in this house? Activity that starts with electrical interference and subtle movements before rapidly evolving into throwing heavy furniture usually points to a poltergeist. Poltergeists are notoriously noisy and destructive, often feeding off the raw emotional energy and stress of the people living in the home, especially teenagers like the son in the video. However, manifesting a physical face to intentionally terrify a child is a deeply predatory behavior that points to something much darker. Many investigators would look at this timeline and classify it as a demonic infestation. These dark entities systematically break down a family's psychological state. They start by making you question your sanity with moving objects, exhaust you with fear, and then reveal themselves to feed off the resulting terror. When a haunting goes from turning on a ceiling fan to physically dragging heavy furniture and showing its face to children, you are dealing with a highly dangerous presence. Would you try to bring in a professional to cleanse a house this active? Or are you packing your bags the second a chair moves on its own? In the following clip you're about to watch, we check into one of the most notoriously haunted locations in the United States, the Jerome Grand Hotel in Arizona. A mother and her daughters are just trying to settle down and get some sleep. But the room clearly has other plans. The creepy activity starts subtly, with the floor lights suddenly flicking on entirely by themselves. But keep your eyes on the bed and watch their reactions, because the real terror in this video happens where the camera can't quite see. According to the poster of the video, right after the lights malfunctioned, they felt the mattress physically sink as someone or something crawled into bed right next to them.
Mom, stop. Stop! What? Jesus, it's alive! It's alive! What is it? It keeps going, Diane. Mom's like went on two over there by the front door. Did you feel the bed move? I feel the bed move.
When you dive into the history of the location, this terrifying encounter actually makes a lot of sense. The Jerome Grand Hotel wasn't originally a hotel at all. It was built as the United Verdi Hospital in the 1920s, a place that saw immense suffering and countless deaths. In paranormal research, feeling a heavy weight or the sensation of someone getting into bed with you is a classic tactile manifestation. Given the building's dark history, investigators often theorize that these are the restless spirits of former patients who are trapped in a residual loop, confused, and still trying to climb into a hospital bed. However, skeptics often dismiss these physical sensations as hypnagogic hallucinations, sensory tricks the brain plays when transitioning into sleep, combined with the power of suggestion in a famously spooky hotel. One thing we know for sure is that at the end, whatever they felt on that mattress sent them running in pure terror. And there were people in the comments that reported a similar occurrence at that same place. So what do you think? Was a restless spirit trying to share their room? Or was it just a trick of the mind and some faulty wiring? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we see a terrifying escalation of events that starts with one of the most unsettling sounds you can hear in an empty house, a little girl crying. The guy filming this hears the sobbing echoing from his downstairs bathroom. Phone in hand, he cautiously goes to investigate, only to find the bathroom light aggressively flickering on and off from beneath the doorframe. Wanting to know what he's dealing with before going in, he drops to the floor to peek through the gap. That's when he clearly sees a pair of little legs wearing shoes standing right on the other side. He immediately tries the handle, but the door is completely jammed shut. Watch what happens when the door finally gives way and listen closely to the audio the second he steps back out into the hallway.
¿Quién eres? Algo abrió la puerta. Vi sus pies. Ya me voy.
In the world of paranormal investigation, this sequence of events is a massive red flag. The sound of a crying child is a textbook lure, a manipulative tactic used by malevolent entities to trigger your natural human instinct to help. The flickering lights indicate a massive drain on the surrounding electromagnetic field, giving the entity the energy it needs to create a solid physical manifestation, like the legs and shoes he saw under the door. But the most terrifying part is the immediate shift in energy. The second he realizes the bathroom is completely empty, the illusion drops. That deep, guttural growl coming from the living room is the entity dropping the little girl act and revealing its true demonic nature. So, what exactly do you think that is? And what would you do if something like this happened in your house? This next clip shows exactly why bringing certain vintage toys into your home is always a massive gamble, especially when you have a busy household. The mother filming this video mentions in her caption that it's just a normal, chaotic morning, and you can even hear her kids being loud in the background. But up on top of her cabinet, sitting in the shadows behind a Nintendo Switch box, is a doll that has been acting up all morning. She says it had been randomly making little sounds and playing its music before stopping. She finally decided to pull out her camera to see if she could catch it in the act, and she got exactly what she was looking for. Keep your eyes locked on the face of that doll in the background.
I think I can see it on here. Hold on. Now it's stopped. Oh, wait, there it is. See if she moves. There it is.
Seeing an inanimate object move is one thing, but seeing a doll physically turn its head to look directly at the person filming is a whole different level of terrifying. In paranormal research, haunted dolls are a major focal point. Entities, both human spirits and demonic attachments, often bind themselves to human-like vessels. It gives them a physical anchor in our world, a face, and a body to manipulate. The fact that it was playing its music to get her attention, and then deliberately turned to face her the second she started recording, shows an incredibly high level of intelligent awareness. It knew it was being watched, and it wanted to look right back. When you have an actively haunted, physically moving object in a house full of energetic children who are basically giant batteries for paranormal entities, you are sitting on a ticking time bomb. If a doll turned its head to look at you in your own living room, are you throwing the doll out, or are you just moving out of the house entirely? In this next clip, the guy filming is taking his Cybertruck for a slow drive through a completely empty cemetery in the middle of the day. But as he glances down at his infotainment screen, the vehicle's collision avoidance system suddenly starts flagging multiple pedestrians walking right alongside the truck. The terrifying part, when he looks out the windshield and pans the camera around, there isn't a single living soul in sight.
I just want y'all to see, look where we at, y'all. There's nobody outside. I believe God is real. This is all proof to me. Look at this. Look at this, all the people here.
There's nobody here.
Crazy. Crazy.
When you dive into the technology behind these vehicles, this footage gets incredibly eerie. Companies like Tesla have built highly advanced camera-based vision systems and sensors designed to detect mass, depth, and human shapes to prevent accidents. Because these sensors are constantly processing environmental data that the naked human eye might completely miss, some modern paranormal investigators believe and have actually started using these cars as massive, rolling, ghost detecting tools. People like this believe that the system isn't just glitching out on a single oddly shaped tombstone in that clip. It is actively tracking multiple distinct human-shaped figures moving together in a group alongside the road. But of course, there are those who believe that it's just a software glitch. What do you think? This next clip shows a man that believes he is being targeted by brujeria. Brujeria is a complex form of witchcraft that comes from Latin American traditions. And while it has roots in healing and protection, the darker side often involves a trabajo, a targeted curse that actively binds a malevolent spirit to a specific person to drain their energy, cause intense paranoia, and induce absolute terror. The footage starts around 11 p.m. He wakes up to find his bedroom door inexplicably wide open, and he points out that he can clearly hear the downstairs TV playing all by itself. As he pans his camera toward the dark hallway, he spots a shadowy figure just standing there, watching him. Fast forward 5 hours later, he had managed to fall back asleep, but was suddenly woken up by one of his dogs. He grabs his camera, looks toward the open door, and realizes the nightmare isn't over. The entity is still standing right there in the dark. What out for the door opening before he completely lost it?
Son las 11 de la noche, más o menos. Me dormí desde las 6 de la tarde. Ya hasta se me hizo tarde para alcanzar la tienda. Y noté que la puerta está abierta, perdón. Todavía ando con un poco de sueño. Ahí anda Frijol y Chorizo está comiendo sus croquetitas. Es ese ruido. El punto es que se escucha que la tele de abajo está prendida. No sé si se alcanza a escuchar. Es que chorizo comiendo hace mucho ruido. Y no sé si me quieran creer o no, pero como que veo que hay alguien ahí parado. Se los juro que como que veo que hay alguien ahí parado. Ah, no, yo chorizo ya vi. Ah, no, chorizo. Son las 2 de la mañana. Pues estaba dormido, me despertaron uno de mis perros. Y está la puerta abierta, pero hay algo ahí. No sé si se alcanza a ver, como si estuviera ahí una silueta. Es que, a ver, déjeme cambiar la cámara a ver si se ve mejor. A ver... Ahí se ve... Sí, ahí se ve mejor. No sé si se alcanza a notar. Y es que la luz está ahí al ladito. Y acá también están mis linternas. No me quiero parar ni acercar ahí, pero hay algo ahí parado. No sé si se alcanza a notar con la cámara. Hay algo ahí parado, no sé qué pedo. No sé qué pedo, pero hay algo ahí parado. No me quiero la neta ni acercar, pero la puerta la estaba... ¿Qué pedo? ¡No, se mamó!
The sheer panic in his voice as he realizes he is trapped in his own bedroom is incredibly unsettling. When you look at this through the lens of Dark Brujeria, this isn't just a random haunted house scenario. It's a highly targeted spiritual attack. This entity's entire purpose is to harvest his fear. The fact that it stood in his doorway for hours, basically waiting for him to wake up, is a textbook psychological tactic designed to break him down. And when it finally lunges at him with that terrifying speed at the end, it crosses the line from a creepy shadow into a highly aggressive physical threat. In this next clip, we step away from the terrifying and look at an encounter that is both heartbreaking and incredibly beautiful. The footage starts with a deeply touching moment between an elderly, sick woman and her husband, who is showing her an incredible amount of love, comfort, and devotion while she rests. Their daughter is the one recording this sweet interaction. But before you watch the clip, there is a heavy, spiritual backstory happening behind the scenes that you need to know. The mother has been telling her family that she has started seeing her younger daughter, who tragically passed away in 2017, standing in the room. On top of that, she claims she has been hearing the voice of her own late mother.
And, oh wow. Oh.
You've been all right, boy.
And between the radiation and the chemo medicine I'm taking at night, they are kicking my butt. I am so wore out. I feel like I worked 5 double shifts. And I remember working 5 double shifts at General Electric. I am so wore out. And I love you.
I love you.
I love you. You don't know how much I love you.
I love you. You don't know how much you do.
Oh, good.
Here, Tina. Come get my ring.
Well, your rings are already off, Mama.
Yeah,
Jenny.
those rings are right here, too.
Jenny has them.
I've got 6.
Jenny has them.
Oh,
Let me get her water.
okay. I mean, you don't need to have them on because they can fall off and fall on the floor and get sucked up in the vacuum cleaner or something, so...
As her condition progressed, the daughter kept a camera running in the bedroom to monitor her. Late at night, the mother is resting quietly in the dark when she suddenly speaks into the seemingly empty room, softly saying, "Okay," as if she is actively responding to someone only she can see. Listen very carefully to the audio immediately after she speaks.
Okay.
Hearing a faint, distinct voice whisper "Mama" right after she agrees to whatever is being asked is incredibly profound. In the medical and hospice communities, this phenomenon is widely documented as a deathbed vision. As people near the end of their lives, their awareness often seems to shift, and they frequently report seeing, hearing, and speaking with family members who have already passed on. While skeptics might argue the whispered audio is just pareidolia, a heavy breath, or background noise, the timing and the history of her visions make it undeniably powerful. Sadly, the mother passed away just a few days after this footage was recorded. But whether that whisper was a true EVP, electronic voice phenomenon of her younger daughter, or just a trick of the microphone, it brings an immense amount of peace to the family. It is a deeply comforting thought to believe that when it is finally our time to leave this physical world, the loved ones we've missed for years are standing right there waiting to welcome us home. In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying example of a child interacting with something that an adult is completely blind to. A mother is just casually filming her little boy, Jensen, while he lines up his toy cars on the living room floor. It's a completely innocent, quiet moment, right up until a sudden noise echoes from the other side of the room. What makes this video so chilling isn't the sound itself, but Jensen's immediate, visceral reaction to it. According to his mum, he is not typically a cuddly or clingy kid, but the absolute second this happens, his survival instincts completely take over. Watch what happens when his mum starts asking him very specific questions about exactly what he is looking at.
What? It's okay. Do you see someone?
Yes.
Who do you see?
Dad.
Who is it?
Patio.
You see someone over there? What are they doing? That's what they're doing?
Yes.
Are they scary? Are they nice? Like, do you want to go play with them? They're not there no more?
Yes.
They are? What are they doing? Is there still someone over there by your toys?
Yes.
Is it a man? Or is it a lady?
Sissy.
A lady? It's a woman? Do you know her name?
Dad.
What's her name?
Dad too.
Oh, she's in the kitchen now? Oh,
It's high.
she's up high?
Yes. Dad. Oh. Dad. Oh.
What?
This.
What is it?
Dad.
You tell me, I don't see anything.
Oh. Dad.
You keep pointing by your toys. Is there someone by your toys?
Oh, shit.
You keep pointing to the chair.
Oh.
Is there someone in the chair?
Yes.
Can you point to where you see someone? Where are they?
Dad.
They're right there. What are they doing?
Dad. I see. Dad.
The chair?
Dad.
Over by your toys?
Yes.
Well, are they gone now? Did they go bye-bye?
Dad.
Right there?
Yes, I see. They're by the chair?
Yes.
Can you wave to them if you see them?
Ada. Ada, got Mommy?
Yeah?
Ada. I see.
You see them?
I see.
Is it boy or girl?
Good.
A girl? Go.
You see the girl?
Oh,
Can you ask her name?
go.
A girl. You see a girl? Does she make you happy or scared? Scared?
I see her dad.
Yeah, you keep pointing to the chair.
Go.
A girl? Is she old? Like, is she maybe mommy's grandma?
I go.
A girl?
I go. I
A girl sitting over there?
go. I see that.
You see that? You see a girl?
I go. I see that. Go see.
Oh.
Shit.
Did she wave to you?
No, I see that.
Is she nice?
Let's
Oh, she is nice. Where is she?
bye.
I know you're waving to the chair, but where is she behind? Like, can you look at her? Is she there? I don't see her, do you?
Pop.
Oh. Did she leave?
No.
No, she's still there.
Let's.
Where? I put you down and you go show me where she is. Go show me. Go by her. Can you go give her a high five?
Nope.
Why?
High five.
You don't want to?
There is nothing more unsettling than a toddler casually describing a nightmare standing right in front of them. When she asks what the presence is doing, the terrifying face and sound he mimics to demonstrate is pure nightmare fuel. But the absolute scariest part of this footage is how he physically tracks the entity's movements in real time. He doesn't just stare at one dark corner. He points to the end of the living room, then tracks it moving into the kitchen, and finally points straight up to the ceiling. In paranormal research, an entity that defies gravity to crawl or hover on a ceiling is almost never classified as a standard human spirit. That kind of unnatural, spider-like movement is a classic hallmark of something much darker, often associated with demonic entities or crawlers. The fact that this entity is intentionally keeping itself hidden from the adults while actively showing itself to the toddler is a textbook isolation tactic. It knows the child's sensory filters are still wide open, and it is deliberately using that connection to feed off his pure, unfiltered panic. After little Jensen's terrifying encounter with whatever was crawling on the ceiling, the family understandably set up a security camera to see what was actually happening in their living room. And a few days later, the camera caught another incident. The older brother, Tucker, is just getting ready to head out with his mum, but as he's standing there, the environment is clearly highly active. Keep your focus on the little toy duck sitting completely by itself in the middle of the floor, and keep an eye out for the strange, illuminated anomalies floating through the air. Watch Tucker's body language closely too. It looks like he might actually catch a glimpse of the movement out of the corner of his eye before they walk out the door. When you combine floating orbs with actual physical object manipulation, it completely changes the conversation. Skeptics love to quickly debunk orbs as just dust particles or bugs catching the infrared light of a security camera. But in paranormal research, when an orb is captured in the exact same frame as a heavy physical interaction, like a toy being dragged across the floor, investigators classify those spheres as concentrated balls of raw spiritual energy actively trying to manifest. The creepiest part of this footage is the timeline of the movement. The entity moves the duck slightly while Tucker is standing right there, almost like it's testing the waters to see if he notices. But the absolute second the front door closes and the house is completely empty, the toy is forcefully dragged even further to the right. It proves that whatever has attached itself to this family isn't just putting on a spooky show for an audience. It is physically occupying their space, and it has absolutely no problem playing with the kids' toys the moment they leave the room. In this next clip, we look at the absolute worst case scenario for anyone who lives by themselves. The guy filming this is just returning home after stepping out for the night. As he walks up to his house, he casually glances up at his second-story window, but instead of the dark, empty room he was expecting, he sees something that stops him completely in his tracks. Someone, or something, is already inside, looking right back down at him. Keep in mind, his caption explicitly states that he lives completely alone.
No mamen. Acabo de llegar del trabajo y vean lo que estoy viendo en la ventana. No mamen.
Seeing a pale, almost translucent face staring out from a pitch-black room is pure nightmare fuel. In the paranormal community, entities that present themselves exactly like this are often referred to as watchers. Unlike poltergeists that aggressively throw things around to cause chaos and fear, watchers are incredibly still, quiet, and deeply territorial. They usually claim a specific room or floor of a house and simply observe the living. However, the fact that it is intentionally hovering right at the glass while he is standing outside shows a terrifying level of awareness. It isn't just mindlessly haunting a corner of the room, it is actively looking out the window, watching him return. It is a bold, territorial display, basically daring him to come inside, unlock his front door, and try to go to sleep. You see, just because you pay the rent doesn't mean you actually live alone. So, what do you think that is? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we tap into one of the most primal fears you can experience. You're home completely alone, locked in your bedroom, when someone starts knocking and calling your name in your mother's exact voice. The only problem, the first time this happened, she was actually on the phone with her real mum at that exact moment, who confirms she isn't anywhere near the house. When dealing with a mimic, the golden rule is to never respond and never open the door. But watch what happens when she refuses to answer and the entity decides it's completely tired of waiting in the hallway.
Hey guys, I'm home alone and I'm getting ready for bed.
Adrena!
Mom? Are you home?
Adrena! Are you there?
Wait, I thought you weren't going to be home for another 30 minutes. What?
Adrena!
Her scream, as that door slowly swings open to reveal an empty hallway, is absolutely bone-chilling. But that final moment actually sparked a massive debate in the comments. Are mimics physically capable of opening doors on their own? In traditional paranormal lore, the answer is almost always no. Mimics are considered psychological predators. They copy the voices of your loved ones, specifically to bait you into opening the door, because they lack the kinetic energy or the spiritual permission to cross a closed boundary on their own. They rely entirely on trickery to get an invitation. So, what does it mean if the door opens by itself? From a paranormal theory standpoint, it suggests two incredibly terrifying possibilities. Either this entity has been feeding off her raw panic long enough to gather the physical power of a poltergeist, or it was never just a mimic to begin with. What do you think it was? In this next clip, a man was walking through the Valley Plaza Mall late at night, long after the stores had closed and the crowds had gone home. It should be dead silent, but as he's walking past the dark storefronts and empty massage chairs, he hears something that immediately makes his blood run cold. The distinct, echoing sound of children laughing. So, he immediately pulls out his phone to document it and manages to capture the giggling on camera. But as he's trying to figure out where the sound is coming from, he notices something moving in the shadows down the hall. Keep your eyes on the dark kiosk counter in the distance and listen closely.
On everything I love, I just heard a group of kids over here laughing. On everything, bro. I just heard a group of kids laughing. Where the hell the kids at? What the fuck? Bro, I know I'm not tripping, bro. I just heard a whole bunch of kids laughing, bro. You hear that shit? What the fuck? Bro, I'm in the mall by myself. Where the fuck is that shit coming from? I know y'all heard that shit. Bro, what the fuck? I'm about to get about this bitch. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Staring right at me. Right there. My heart beating fast as fuck, bro. I'm scared as fuck. There's a person right there in a red shirt, right in front of me. Right there, y'all see him. There's a person right there. What the fuck going on? He just standing there. He's just standing there, bro. Bro. I'm out of here.
Hearing a child's laugh in an abandoned or empty space is basically the ultimate horror movie cliche, but in the paranormal community, it is actually taken very seriously. There are generally two schools of thought when it comes to phantom children. The first is that it's residual energy. Malls are places of high emotion, excitement, and energy, especially for kids. That intense joy can basically get recorded into the environment, playing back like a broken tape when the building is quiet. However, the second theory is much darker. Many investigators believe that malevolent entities will actively mimic the voices of crying or laughing children. It's a predatory tactic designed to instantly lower your guard and trigger your natural instinct to go investigate and help. When you combine that phantom laughing with a physical shadow ducking behind a counter in the distance, it looks a lot less like a residual echo and a lot more like an intelligent entity playing a very dark game of hide and seek, actively trying to bait him further into the dark mall. This next video was recorded by a father and daughter duo who were touring the historic streets of Galveston, Texas. Galveston is widely considered one of the most haunted cities in the United States, largely due to its tragic history with the Great Storm of 1900. For these two, ghost hunting is a shared passion, but they actually managed to capture their most compelling evidence without even realizing it. While they were filming the exterior of one of the city's famous Victorian-style houses, they missed the figure standing in the second-story window. It wasn't until they got home and rewatched the footage that they saw the pale shape looking back at them before it seemingly retreats into the darkness of the room.
Alright, so we took this video a while back. It's probably about 4 years ago, when I took my daughter to Galveston. We're doing those ghost tours. And later we come back and my daughter says, "Dad, look, I think I got something on one of her live photos that she did." and we've always wondered if that was something. But y'all let me know what y'all think. We think it's somebody there, like a ghost, and then it disappears. Like he's in the frame, and then he disappears in the window. Now I'm gonna zoom in on it and play it. It was a live, so I have to zoom in and then do it because it's hard to see the whole video. But when we saw it there, that's what we call it. Y'all tell me what y'all think this is. So like you see, there's a guy right there, like the picture of him, and then if you look, it's like he walks away, like it walks from, he's there, and then he just walks away like through the thing. So y'all tell me what y'all think about that. I don't know. I know it's kind of hard to see on there, and I was trying to zoom in and zoom out and trying to get a closer look at it, but the first picture I put, it shows like it's still framing me up close, and it looks like a guy with like a hat with the white, looks like a figure in that window. I said I had to try to zoom in because it's a live video, so if you push it one way, you have to zoom on it just right so it follows it. But I don't know. What do y'all guys think? Do we get something? Do we not get something? Is it maybe something? Could it be a ghost? Could it not be a ghost? I wanted to research more on like that house because apparently there was a lot of stuff that went on in that house. If you've ever taken the tour in Galveston, one of them that goes by, we've taken a couple times just because me and my daughters, we love to go ghost hunting. But we've taken it a couple times. They showed us other pictures and stuff around there. Some other pictures other people have taken. But yeah, just let me know what y'all think. I mean, I talked to one of the tour guides that gave us the tour last time. I showed her that, and she was like, yeah, I think that's something. So I don't know if she's saying that or what, but y'all tell me what y'all think.
Galveston's haunted reputation comes from a massive amount of residual energy left behind by its turbulent past. These old houses are like sponges for spiritual activity, and sightings of figures in white are incredibly common in this area. Often, these are believed to be the spirits of former residents who are still tethered to their family homes, repeating their daily routines in a loop. However, the way this figure moves is what has paranormal investigators talking. A residual haunting usually doesn't react to the living. It just plays like a movie on a loop. But this figure appears to notice the camera and immediately moves away, which suggests an intelligent entity. It knew it was being watched and chose to disappear back into the shadows of the house. What do you think that was? Was that a spirit of old Galveston watching from the shadows? Or is it just a trick of the light? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the following clip you're about to watch, we dive into the terrifying reality of being a night shift security guard. Malls and department stores are designed to be filled with massive crowds. So when you empty them out, kill the music, and turn off the lights at 3 o'clock a.m., they immediately turn into massive, echoing concrete tombs. The guy filming this is just doing his standard, solitary patrol through the dark plaza when the dead silence is suddenly shattered by something that completely freezes him in his tracks. He hears a distinct, terrifying scream echoing from somewhere deep inside the empty building.
Buenas noches, la plaza ya se cerró. ¿Hay alguien aquí? Buenas noches. Ya se cerró la plaza, joven. Buenas noches. Buenas noches, ya se cerró. ¿Hay algún niño aquí? Buenas noches.
The worst part about a sound like that in a massive commercial space is the acoustics. The scream bounces off the closed metal security gates and tile floors, creating a distorted echo that makes it almost impossible to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. In paranormal theory, an isolated, disembodied scream of this magnitude is usually categorized as one of two things. It could be a residual haunting, an intensely traumatic or emotional event permanently stamped into the environment, replaying itself blindly like a broken record. Or, in a much more sinister scenario, it's an intelligent entity mimicking human distress. It knows the guard is the only living person in the building, and it is actively using a horrific sound to bait him off his normal route and draw him into the darkest corners of the store. When your literal job description is to investigate disturbances, a phantom scream is the ultimate nightmare, because eventually you have to go walk into the dark and see what's waiting for you. In this next video, we're looking at, or rather listening to, something that has genuinely terrified an entire neighborhood. The person recording is standing near a river in pitch black darkness, and they are capturing this audio in real time. According to the caption, this isn't just an isolated incident, it's actually the third time in 2 years that this strange, inexplicable singing has echoed across the water at night. Take a listen to what these residents are hearing out there in the dark.
Okay, so as you can see, it's pitch black out there, right? I live on a river, and there's no lights. So, there's a room in there, but like, it's pitch black. So just listen for a moment, okay? And tell me that you would not be fucking freaked out by this. What the fuck?
Hearing a disembodied song echoing over a body of water in the dead of night immediately brings up some very old, very dark folklore. Throughout history, legends from almost every culture warn about water spirits, mermaids, and sirens using beautiful, haunting melodies for one specific reason: to lure people off their path and into the depths. Most paranormal audio is just a quick, residual whisper, but singing requires breath, pitch, and intention. When an unseen entity projects a song across a dark river, it isn't just making random noise, it's actively performing, and more importantly, it is acting as bait. It wants you to step closer to the edge to see where the music is coming from. It's completely understandable why the people living near this river are so on edge, which leaves us with a very creepy question. What do you think makes that sound? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we see exactly why 3 a.m. is universally known in the paranormal community as the demonic hour. The guy in this footage is completely vulnerable, fast asleep on his living room couch. According to the caption, his wife had already been complaining about feeling a strange, heavy presence in the apartment, which is likely why this security camera was rolling in the first place. As you watch this, keep your eyes locked on the deep shadows in the background. Watch very closely. There are a few things about this footage that make it absolutely terrifying. First is the visual of that dark, dense mass physically emerging from the corner, but it's the intelligence of the movement that makes your stomach drop. The second the man stirs and briefly wakes up, the shadow instantly retreats back into hiding. It is actively observing him, waiting for him to be fully unconscious and defenseless. Then there is the audio. The entity doesn't just move, it lets out a deep, guttural growl. In paranormal research, a growling sound is almost always a massive red flag. Human spirits might whisper, cry, or cause objects to shift, but a growl is typically classified as something inhuman or demonic. It isn't just a restless soul wandering through their apartment, it is a predator. And knowing that it is just crouching in the dark, watching him sleep at 3:30 in the morning is enough to make you never want to close your eyes again. In this next clip, we explore a deeply unsettling and universal fear, being trapped in your bedroom while something unseen is waiting on the other side of your door. The girl filming this is completely alone in her apartment. She explicitly mentions in her caption that all the windows are securely closed, completely ruling out the possibility of a weird cross breeze or draft. But as she sits in her room, the door begins to violently rattle and shake. It isn't a subtle vibration. It moves exactly as if a physical person is standing out in the hallway, aggressively gripping the handle and trying to force their way inside. The physical manifestation is terrifying, but the most sinister detail here is the timing. The creator specifically notes that this door only ever starts acting up when her roommate leaves the house. In paranormal research, an entity that displays this kind of selective, targeted behavior is considered incredibly dangerous because it shows predatory intelligence. Spirits that engage in isolation tactics aren't just mindlessly haunting a space. By intentionally waiting until she is completely alone, the entity achieves two dark goals. It guarantees there are no other witnesses to validate her experience, making her question her own sanity, and it maximizes her vulnerability. Entities like this are parasitic. They use isolation to break down your psychological defenses so they can feed off your concentrated, unfiltered panic. When whatever is living in your house starts intentionally separating you from the herd, it isn't just a haunting anymore, and it is definitely time to break the lease. What would you do if you were in her shoes? In this next clip, we look at exactly why finding certain objects hidden away in an old house should be your immediate cue to leave. The guy filming this is completely alone at his grandparents' house. Well, alone except for his dog. He starts recording because he made a very unsettling discovery, an old Ouija board stashed away upstairs. Almost immediately after he finds it, the energy in the house completely shifts. He starts hearing bizarre sounds, and a cup inexplicably knocks itself over. In the paranormal community, an abandoned Ouija board isn't just a dusty piece of cardboard. It is widely considered to be an open door. If a session wasn't closed properly years ago, the theory is that whatever was invited in never actually left. It just went dormant, waiting for someone to acknowledge it again. As the activity ramps up, pay very close attention to his and his dog's reaction.
Mi gente, buenas noches. Estoy en casa de mis abuelos. En la parte de arriba encontré una Ouija, no sé de quién sea. Por eso quería grabar, mi gente. Ustedes están viendo todo. No, hey, ¿quién está aquí? No mames, están aventando los vasos y la puerta. Por favor, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino, hágase su voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día, perdona nuestras ofensas. No mames, güey, vete a la verga. No mames, Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino, hágase su voluntad en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día y perdona nuestras ofensas. No. Perdona nuestras ofensas como tal. No mames. No. Vete a la verga, porque el control.
There are few things scarier than a dog aggressively barking at an empty room. Animals possess a sensory range that human beings simply don't have. When a dog locks its attention on the top of a dark staircase and goes into guard mode, it isn't barking at nothing. It is barking because something is standing right there, looking back down at them. But the absolute breaking point is when that ball bounces down the stairs. It comes directly from the second floor, the exact same place where he just found the Ouija board. It's a classic, terrifying display of a spirit mocking the living. The sheer, unfiltered panic in his voice as he starts frantically praying the Our Father is completely visceral. He realizes in real time that whatever was left attached to that board is now walking down the stairs to introduce itself. In this next piece of footage, we see a terrifying escalation of workplace paranormal activity. Working late in an empty office building is already isolating, but for this guy, it turns into a full-blown siege. It starts with the sound of things being violently thrown around outside his office. He immediately checks the wall of security monitors right next to his desk, expecting to see a trespasser, but the camera feeds are completely dead and empty. Then, the heavy, deliberate knocking on his door starts. The panic in the room is palpable. He actually resorts to barricading himself inside, shoving chairs against the door frame just to keep whatever is out there from getting in. After a tense standoff, he finally grabs a knife for protection and forces himself to step outside and check. He steps into the corridor and it is completely, impossibly empty.
Đây, cho mọi người xem đây. Đó, mọi người nghe chưa? Gò đi. Gò đi. Địt mẹ nha mày. Nó gọt được cửa này luôn này. Con người không được, con người lúc này mà mình đi ra mở cửa là thấy rồi à. Mẹ nha mày. Mẹ. Nhịt mẹ. Gò đi. Gò đi, đó. Không có ai mà nó gò cửa này giờ đấy. Ịt mày. Gò nó đi.
But the nightmare doesn't end just because the hallway looks clear. While he is out there cautiously investigating, the entity starts playing a highly aggressive game of cat and mouse. As he creeps down the corridor, the door to the restroom suddenly swings shut on its own. Startled, he pushes it open and checks inside, only to find another empty room. He turns his back to walk away and continue his search, and the absolute second he looks away, that same door violently slams shut behind him with massive force. Realizing he is completely outmatched by something he can't even see, he retreats straight back to the monitor room to check the cameras again.
Có trèo bùa người ta cho hả? Đây. Hey. Thôi. Mày.
Up until this point, a hardened skeptic might try to blame the slamming doors on a bizarre cross breeze or air pressure in the building. But what happens next completely shatters any logical explanation. The next day, the entity decides it is done just making noise. He is hiding in an office, barely cracking the door open to film the hallway. Look closely at the window frame in the distance. A dark, physical figure finally shows itself, creeping right at the edge of the window frame before seamlessly slipping away into the darkness. It's the ultimate psychological torture. When you look into paranormal folklore, entities that behave like this are rarely ever human spirits. They are usually classified as predatory shadow beings or crawlers. Unlike a typical ghost that might be tied to a specific tragedy or residual memory, these creatures are considered parasitic. They actively seek out isolated individuals and feed off the heavy energy of human terror. That completely explains the hours of psychological buildup. It wasn't just aimlessly haunting the building, it was methodically hunting him. By disabling the cameras, throwing heavy objects, and slamming doors right behind his back, it was deliberately spiking his adrenaline and breaking down his mental defenses. It spent the entire night making sure he knew he was trapped, just to finally let him catch a physical glimpse of it. It's a very clear, chilling message. You can check the monitors and carry a knife all you want, but you can't stop me. In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying encounter that turns a completely mundane, everyday space into a nightmare. The guy filming is just making his way through a quiet, empty utility room. It seems like a completely normal, boring walk until the dead silence is suddenly broken by something you never want to hear when you think you're alone. And whatever makes that sound follows it up immediately with a massive, aggressive display of physical force right in front of him. Watch how fast his survival instincts kick in when he realizes what is standing in the aisle with him.
I know.
Moving a heavy, front-loading appliance door on its hinges requires a significant amount of physical strength. It's not something a draft or a slightly uneven floor is going to accomplish. But where this happens is actually the most interesting piece of the puzzle. In paranormal lore, utility rooms, basements, and laundry areas are notorious hotbeds for spiritual activity. Paranormal investigators widely believe that water is a massive conductor for spiritual energy. Entities naturally gravitate toward places with heavy plumbing, drainage, and large electrical appliances. Those elements combined create a massive, easily accessible pool of kinetic and electromagnetic energy for them to draw from in order to physically manifest. Whatever is sharing that room with him isn't just a weak, residual spirit. It has siphoned enough ambient energy from its environment to not only project its voice, but to physically interact with the real world. It wanted to stop him right in his tracks and show him exactly who was in control of that room. What do you think was sharing that room with him? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the next clip, we see exactly why exploring sealed-off, abandoned buildings at night is always a terrible idea. The guy filming is standing outside a completely deserted house, and you can immediately tell he already knows he shouldn't be there. He unlocks the door to go inside, but before he even crosses the threshold, he starts loudly praying. Whether he heard something moving around inside from the porch, or the energy of the place was just that overwhelmingly heavy, his instincts were screaming at him that the house wasn't actually empty, and he barely takes a few steps inside before he gets violent, physical confirmation. Keep your eyes locked on the dark doorway straight ahead of him.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yabba! Bismillah. Oh! Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah, Bismillah. Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان.
The sheer amount of physical force required to throw that bed to the floor like that is staggering, and you can clearly see what did it too. But the absolute scariest part of this video isn't the initial scare, it's the aftermath. When he finally gathers the courage to walk into that room to see what just threw the bed, it is completely, impossibly empty. There are no footsteps running away, no one hiding in the corner, just a wrecked room. In a lot of Middle Eastern and Islamic paranormal lore, abandoned spaces like this are heavily associated with the jinn. Unlike traditional ghosts, which are the spirits of deceased humans, jinn are considered an entirely different species of entities that live alongside us, often claiming empty, ruined houses as their own territory. When a human walks into their domain, they don't just give you a spooky, subtle haunting. They aggressively defend their ground to scare you out. Moving that fast, displaying that much physical power, and vanishing without a trace is a classic hallmark of a jinn telling you to get out of its house immediately. In this next clip, we dive into one of the most unsettling phenomena in the paranormal world. Children seeing things that adults completely miss. People don't just randomly film their family sleeping for no reason. This kind of terrifying incident had actually been happening for a while, which is exactly why the father finally decided to set up a night vision camera in their room to capture it. They are all fast asleep until the little girl suddenly wakes up in an absolute panic. Skeptics will immediately try to brush this off as just a standard childhood nightmare, but her body language completely disproves that. When a kid wakes up from a bad dream, they usually just cry and bury their face in their parents' chests for comfort because the scary thing was inside their head. But she doesn't do that. Her eyes are locked on a very specific physical spot in the room. She is actively tracking something. Watch what happens to her level of terror when her dad actually tries to walk into the dark to check it out. In the paranormal community, it is a widely accepted theory that young children possess a much broader sensory frequency than adults because their minds haven't been conditioned to logically filter out the impossible yet. They are highly sensitive to spiritual entities and energy shifts that we are completely blind to. The most chilling part of this footage is her reaction when her father steps toward the area she's staring at. She starts screaming purely because she doesn't want him going over there. She isn't remembering a scary dream. She is actively watching something standing in the dark, and she is genuinely terrified for her dad's safety. When a child reacts with that much intense protective panic to an empty space, you don't go investigate the dark. You just turn on every light in the house and maybe call for an exorcism. In the next clip, we are taking a look at a place that most people actively try to avoid, especially after dark, the basement of a funeral home. According to the caption, a worker was just heading down into the storage and receiving area for the bodies. This is the exact room where the recently deceased are first brought in off the street. Naturally, it's supposed to be the quietest, most completely still room in the entire building. But as he walks into the dark, the dead silence is violently interrupted. Keep your eyes on the heavy metal equipment standing right in the middle of the room.
Estamos aquí en la funeraria, otra vez, con ruidos raros. Entonces, pues, está solo. Ahora sí, ¿cuál pinche que se ve? Que nada. Estoy solo a la chingada. Estoy solo. A la chingada. A la chingada. No mames. A la chingada.
It takes a very deliberate, aggressive amount of physical force to knock heavy funeral stands straight to the floor like that. That isn't a draft from an AC vent, and it isn't a clumsy bump. That is a targeted, violent push. When you dive into paranormal theory, funeral homes are basically considered massive spiritual transit stations. They are the ultimate liminal space between the physical world and whatever comes next. Because of that, investigators believe these buildings are constantly flooded with the confused, restless energy of spirits who might not even realize they have passed away yet. However, a sudden, violent display of kinetic energy usually points to something much heavier than just a confused ghost. Throwing heavy objects is often a sign of immense frustration from a trapped spirit. Even worse, it could be a darker, parasitic entity that actively feeds on the intense residual grief and heavy atmosphere of the morgue, lashing out at the lone worker just to prove that it is the one truly in charge of the basement. This next clip shows one of the most violent and chaotic examples of a spiritual home invasion you will ever come across. But to understand how scary this was for the poster, we need to go back a few days. The guy who lives here experienced something on a day when he was actually miles away, out performing a show. In the middle of his set, he suddenly became violently ill. He felt shaky, weak, and described it as if his energy was being completely drained right out of his body. Trusting his gut that something was horribly wrong, he pulled out his phone to check his home security cameras. What he saw unfolding in his empty kitchen is absolute nightmare fuel. The cross on his wall was turned upside down. There was a scary sound coming from his kitchen, and chairs were being thrown around. Because of this, he decided to put more cameras around his house, and one day while he was sleeping, this happened. Pay close attention to the bedroom door and keep your eyes locked on the vintage items sitting on top of his dresser. Seeing a bedroom door slowly creak open on its own is creepy enough, but the movement on that dresser takes this to a whole new level of disturbing. That doll doesn't just fall over from a vibration, it is being actively dragged back and forth, left and right, exactly like unseen hands are physically playing with it. In paranormal research, vintage dolls are notorious for acting as spiritual sponges or trigger objects. Because they are designed in the likeness of humans, dark entities often use them as vessels or focal points to manipulate physical energy. What you are seeing here is a classic psychological intimidation tactic. The entity opened the bedroom door to physically demonstrate that it has free reign of his house, and it started toying with the doll to mock a childlike innocence while he is completely unconscious and defenseless. It is a terrifying physical reminder that when you are dealing with an attachment of this level, you are never truly alone, especially when you close your eyes. When people asked why he hasn't moved out yet, he revealed that he did just move into this place, and whatever this is, didn't come with the house, it is attached to him. It followed him from his previous place. What would you do if you were in his shoes? In the next clip, we look at why pulling an all-nighter at the office can sometimes be a terrifying idea. Corporate buildings are designed for daytime hustle, but when everyone goes home, the lights dim and the space empties out, the atmosphere completely changes. The guy in this security footage is working late and decides to catch a quick nap at his desk. But it becomes very clear, very quickly, that he isn't the only one clocking in for the graveyard shift. It starts with a few classic, unsettling disruptions designed to wake him up and get his attention. But watch how aggressively the energy shifts when he finally gets up to investigate. You can literally see his panic escalate in real time. It starts with the phantom phone call, a classic terrifying poltergeist tactic. In paranormal research, entities manipulating electronics like phones or radios is often seen as an attempt to bridge the frequency gap, or simply a deliberate way to demand your undivided attention. When he picks up and hears dead air, the entity immediately pivots to physical manipulation. Moving a heavy office chair on its wheels takes effort, but aggressively throwing that black chair completely to the floor is a massive display of kinetic power. In the paranormal field, office hauntings are actually highly documented. You see workspaces are constantly filled with high stress, anxiety, and intense, heavy emotions. Many investigators believe that dense, negative energy can pool in these areas over time, creating the perfect feeding ground for poltergeists or parasitic entities. Whatever was in that room was actively feeding off his rising fear, escalating its physical attacks step by step until he finally broke. Bolting out of that office as fast as humanly possible was absolutely the only correct move. This next clip was posted by a dad who was just standing in his kitchen, completely focused on feeding his baby. His back is turned to the rest of the room, leaving him completely blind to what is slowly unfolding right behind him. He actually had no idea the full extent of what happened until he went back and pulled this security footage later. Keep your eyes on the paper towel roll sitting by the sink and watch the upper cabinets.
Fucking hell, what was that? What was that? I know. What was... That shit me up. Someone's falling over. I know.
Seeing an object physically lift off the counter and levitate before dropping is one of the most undeniable displays of poltergeist activity you can capture. It didn't just tip over from a passing breeze, it was actively picked up and dropped. In paranormal research, entities that pull these kinds of stunts are usually classified as attention-seeking. But what makes this specific encounter so chilling is the intelligence behind the timing. It deliberately manipulated the paper towels to create a noise, forcing him to turn around and look. His raw, startled reaction is the exact spike in emotional energy the entity was looking for. Once it had his attention and his adrenaline was peaking, it immediately popped open the upper cabinet to establish its presence in the room. Poltergeist activity is famously drawn to households with high ambient energy, and sometimes the bustling, chaotic energy of raising a child can inadvertently act as a battery for these entities. It didn't want to hurt them. It just wanted to make it very clear that it was standing right there in the kitchen with them. In the following clip, we encounter a scenario that goes far beyond a typical residual haunting. When investigators assess a location, they don't just look for movement or sound. They pay very close attention to environmental and sensory changes. One of the most severe red flags you can experience in your home is olfactory, specifically the sudden, unexplained smell of sulfur or rotten eggs. In the paranormal world, that nasty smell usually isn't just bad plumbing. A lot of people believe it's the physical sign of something really dark and heavy entering our reality. When an entity like that steps into a room, it completely shifts the energy. Keep that in mind and keep your eyes glued to the wall right behind the couch.
Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? Dude. Baby, what took you so long to answer? Dude, the house smells like literally like rotten egg. Like,
It literally smells like you forgot to take the trash out or something. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but this shit, like, I'm literally feel like I'm about to puke. I was just taking a nap, and the house smells disgusting. Yeah, I'll open the door. I don't know if that's gonna do much, though. The door's open. I don't know. I need a fan or something. You need to get home and, like, air, like, do something in here. Did you take the trash out? What the fuck, baby? The lights are fucking flickering now, dude. Baby, stop! What the fuck? Baby!
When an unseen force interacts with the physical world, the choice of what it manipulates tells you everything you need to know about its intentions. Knocking a cup off a table is a simple cry for attention, but deliberately targeting a symbol of faith and physically inverting it is a highly calculated act of mockery. Pulling off a manipulation like that requires a massive draw of raw energy, which perfectly explains the sudden electrical interference and flickering lights right before it happens. It serves a very specific, deeply sinister purpose. The entity isn't just trying to scare the occupants, it is launching a psychological attack designed to strip away their sense of spiritual protection and claim absolute dominance over the space. When things start smelling like decay and the symbols on your wall turn upside down, you aren't dealing with a restless ghost passing through. You are dealing with something deeply malevolent that is actively making itself at home. In the next clip, we see a perfectly normal family moment take a very strange turn. A mother and father are sitting on the floor, playing with their baby boy. The baby is laughing, and everything seems completely fine, but right in the middle of a giggle, he abruptly stops. The parents were actually so confused by his sudden change in behavior that they posted the video asking a genuine question. Did my son see a ghost or have a seizure? This naturally sparked a huge debate in the comments. While some people suggested it looked like a brief absent seizure, others pointed out an environmental anomaly. As you watch, pay very close attention to the lighting in the room right before the baby's demeanor shifts.
It's so cute.
While a medical explanation is always the most logical place to start, a lot of viewers argued against it based on the visual evidence. First, the physical reaction doesn't entirely fit. Even while his face is frozen, his arms are still subtly moving, and the freeze lasts for just a fraction of a second before he snaps right back to normal. As several people pointed out, absent seizures don't typically resolve that instantaneously, but the detail that really makes people lean toward a paranormal explanation is the lighting. Just as one viewer noticed, right before the baby locks his eyes on the empty space, the brightness of the camera feed inexplicably surges. A medical episode happening inside a child's brain does not cause the external lighting in a room to fluctuate. That kind of sudden light anomaly is often associated with energy shifting in a room. The parents don't know what happened to their boy, but what do you think? This next clip was filmed in an empty grocery store. You see, there is a very specific, deeply unsettling feeling that comes with working the graveyard shift in a massive empty building. Grocery stores are designed to be packed with people, light, and noise. So when you strip all of that away at 3 a.m., it turns into a maze of dead quiet aisles and harsh fluorescent lights. It becomes the perfect, isolated playground for something that doesn't belong. For a while, the overnight stalker who filmed this had been feeling like he wasn't actually alone in the store. He kept catching quick glimpses of a figure in a white shirt slipping around corners or ducking behind shelves just out of his direct line of sight. It's easy to try and brush that off as simple sleep deprivation, but when he walked out of the back room on this particular night, the entity decided to stop hiding in the periphery and make a very physical, undeniable introduction.
Alright, at work, alone, middle of the night. Look at that one sign. Swinging. What is up with that? Nothing else is moving. The one sign right there. What's What's up with that?
Skeptics will immediately try to blame the HVAC system kicking on or a draft from a loading dock door. But basic physics completely ruins that argument. If that was air current, the other identical signs would at least be swaying too. But they are not. They're dead still. That isolated, aggressive movement is completely unnatural. And the fact that the sign is hanging way too high up for a living person to physically reach just adds to the nightmare. That isn't a draft. That is the exact same figure in the white shirt he's been seeing for weeks, finally stepping out into the open and showing him how much physical power it actually has. What would you do if that were you? In this next clip, we are dealing with a situation that feels straight out of a horror movie. We've all heard stories about a random electronic toy going off in the middle of the night, usually just because of a dying battery or a weird glitch. But what this creator captured going on in her bedroom completely defies logic. For a while, she kept waking up to the sound of a very specific melody coming from her bedside lamp. But the terrifying part is how the lamp behaves. It doesn't just play randomly, it waits until she is fully asleep, and the exact second she physically gets up or moves around to check on it, the music dead stops. That kind of reaction isn't a mechanical error, that shows awareness. It knows when she's awake and asleep. If you listen closely, the song playing is Auld Lang Syne, the classic tune everyone sings at midnight on New Year's Eve. Hearing that tinny, cheerful melody echoing in a pitch-black bedroom while you're trying to sleep is unsettling enough on its own. Naturally, the comment section was flooded with people trying to rationalize it, mostly claiming it's just the sound of a musical microchip dying on a low battery. But here is the massive problem with that theory. The creator explicitly confirmed that the lamp is completely unplugged from the wall, and it doesn't even take batteries. There is literally zero physical power source connected to this object. If a device has absolutely no electricity running to it, it cannot produce sound. Unless, of course, something unseen in that room is providing its own energy to make it play. So, what do you think? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, what should have been an exciting fresh start in a new house immediately turns into a nightmare. He has just moved in and is completely alone in the house. He's standing in a dark hallway when the lights start to glitch out and the sliding door at the very end of the hall begins to move.
I was moving into my new house. I was alone and this happened. Good luck to me.
Notice the specific way that door closes. It isn't a smooth, continuous glide caused by a slanted floor or a heavy draft. It has a distinct start and stop motion, exactly like a physical hand is gripping the edge and carefully pulling it shut. He bravely walks down the hall, slides the door open, and finds absolutely nothing inside. It's definitely not the kind of welcoming committee you want to deal with on your first day in a new house. You might try to rationalize that first event and just go to work, hoping it was a weird, isolated fluke. But the second half of the video destroys any chance of a logical explanation. He comes home from his shift to find that exact same bedroom door actively opening and closing on its own. He works up the courage again to push through it and see what is waiting for him inside.
I came home from work. Something seemed strange. My lights were on and something weird happened. WTF is that thing? Somebody get me out of here.
The door moving is creepy enough, but finding that vintage clown doll sitting dead center on his bed takes it to a completely different level of terrifying. Remember, he lives completely alone and absolutely did not put that doll there. In paranormal research, objects like old dolls are often viewed as trigger objects, items that can hold significant residual energy or even act as an anchor for an entity. Physically transporting an object like that and placing it directly on where he sleeps while he was out of the house is a massive escalation. It's a very clear, very sinister message from whatever is sharing that house with him. I was in your room and I am waiting for you. In this next clip, we see why setting up a security camera in your bedroom can sometimes give you a lot more than you bargained for. The person who filmed this was very clear in their caption. They made absolutely sure that the closet door with the mirror on it was securely shut and latched. Watch what happens to it. A latch door doesn't just pop open on its own because of a breeze or the house settling. It takes physical force to undo a latch and pull it open. But as creepy as that is, it's really just the warm-up. That same night, while the creator was actually in the room, fast asleep in bed out of the camera's view, their phone got a motion alert from the camera, and when they checked the footage the next day, they saw this. In the video, you can clearly see a distinct dark shadow moving across the wall and the door. The creator confirmed there was absolutely nothing moving inside or outside the house that could have cast a shadow like that. But the detail that really freaked them out is where the shadow ends up. Toward the end of the clip, the dark shape stops and just hovers right at the foot of the bed, lingering exactly where they were sleeping. It's one thing for an entity to mess with your closet doors while you're out of the room, but standing over you in the dark while you are completely vulnerable and asleep, that is a massive invasion of privacy and honestly, a great reason to pack your bags. What would you do if you experienced something like this? This next clip presents a very unsettling dynamic. When we see grainy baby monitor footage recorded at 3 a.m., we naturally brace ourselves for something terrifying. But what happens when the entity lurking in your child's nursery isn't there to scare them, but to protect them? The footage shows a baby awake and playing in his crib in the middle of the night. As he rocks backward, getting dangerously close to smacking the back of his head against the wooden rails, an unseen force intervenes. If you watch the baby's momentum, the physics simply don't make sense for a self-correction. As the mother pointed out in its post, he is a 23-pound toddler. A baby of that size and motor development cannot abruptly halt a backward fall and smoothly glide forward using just one hand. That movement was a clear, controlled, and gentle tug from an external source, pulling him safely away from the edge. What makes this even more fascinating and eerie is the established pattern. According to the family, this isn't an isolated incident. They regularly capture this kind of activity around the exact same time at night, and the presence behaves in a distinctly maternal way. It doesn't just catch him when he falls. It has also been documented carefully adjusting his blanket to keep him warm while he sleeps. In paranormal theory, this is often categorized as a guardian spirit, or perhaps a lingering familial energy. And while it is certainly comforting to know that the ghost in your house wants to keep your baby safe, it is still an incredibly tough reality to accept that an invisible entity is taking the night shift in your nursery. The following clip you're about to watch was taken in a place that carries a dark and deeply rooted kind of history, La Casa del Cura in Riobamba, Ecuador, which translates to the priest's house, is one of those places built with heavy religious ties that have since been abandoned or plagued by dark rumors. And places like this often act as massive batteries for paranormal energy. On this particular day, a group of people gathered there for a small celebration, and they experienced exactly why the locals speak of this house in hushed tones. They were simply hanging around the property when the environment suddenly and violently reacted to their presence. If this happened in any other place, maybe there would be a more scientific explanation. You could argue it was extreme thermal stress, a sonic vibration, or a sudden shift in the old building's foundation that caused that heavy pane of glass to spontaneously shatter. But in a place with a history like La Casa del Cura, logic tends to fall apart the closer you look. Because the breaking glass isn't actually the most terrifying part of this footage. It's what the shattered glass reveals. If you slow the footage down and look closely into the dark space behind the broken window, you'll see exactly what eagle-eyed viewers noticed. As one commenter pointed out, once the glass breaks, there is a black shadow behind it that disappears. It changes the entire context of the video. That glass didn't just break under natural atmospheric pressure. It was broken by whatever was standing on the other side. Whether that entity was trying to get out or simply sending a violent, unmistakable warning to the people gathered outside, one thing is certain: they were never truly alone at the priest's house. In this next clip, we see that a lot can go wrong when you decide to investigate a strange noise in the middle of the night. For weeks, this man had been plagued by the classic quiet symptoms of an attachment, catching fleeting movements out of the corner of his eye and enduring that suffocating, constant feeling of being watched. He had tried to rationalize these subtle disturbances away, but tonight, whatever it was, decided to finally make a move. So, he hears noise again and he grabs his phone to record his search, maybe just to prove he's not crazy. He slowly walks through his dark house, shining his light around, looking for a logical reason for the noise. Then he rounds a corner and points the camera right at a large wall mirror, and this happens. The scream you just heard, that's pure shock. It's the sound of someone realizing that the thing they've been sensing in the shadows is actually standing right behind them. In paranormal research, mirrors are often considered conduits or traps for energy that exists slightly out of our conventional frequency of perception. What makes this specific manifestation so deeply sinister is not aggression, but proximity. This entity wasn't hiding in a distant closet or another room. It was close enough to touch him, waiting for the one split second he finally decided to look. Some people also believe that entities like this only exist within reflections. If that's true, it leaves us with a truly disturbing possibility. Is it trapped in the mirror, or are we only seeing the smallest fragment of what is standing right behind us in the real world, just outside our normal field of vision? The next clip you're about to watch comes from a security camera installed in a certain woman's relative's basement, and it is a stark example of how the most seemingly mundane objects can become terrifying anomalies. At the time this was recorded, the house was completely empty. The security system was armed, and everything was silent until a motion detection notification suddenly pinged the homeowner's phone. When they checked the playback, they saw a bright, elongated white object launch itself into the air and float through the dark room. Because the laundry machines are right there in the frame, the immediate logical assumption was that it was just a stray dryer sheet caught in a breeze. But was it really? Have a look at the footage. If you look closely, the dryer sheet theory quickly falls apart. Basements are famously stagnant spaces, and the homeowner confirmed there were absolutely no open windows or drafty conditions down there to cause that kind of sudden vertical lift. A piece of lightweight fabric doesn't just overcome gravity and aerodynamically steer itself across a room without a strong, localized updraft. Then, the footage takes a much darker turn. Right after the white form floats out of view, the camera picks up a chilling audio sequence. Heavy, weird footsteps, followed by a clear, guttural growl. But that's not even the detail that completely destroys any logical explanation. You see, when the homeowner went down to that exact spot to retrieve the supposed dryer sheet and close the case, she couldn't find it. There was no sheet on the floor and no lint on the walls. It had simply vanished. In paranormal investigation, an object that manifests in mid-air, defies the physical environment to move, and then completely de-manifests isn't a piece of laundry. It's an energy signature, and whatever floated through that basement used a mundane shape as a disguise, leaving behind a growl to prove it wasn't just passing through. This next clip was posted by a young woman who was casually scrolling through her Facebook memories when a seemingly mundane video from a year ago popped up. When she originally filmed it, everything felt completely normal, but listening back to it now, she caught a deep, guttural audio anomaly that she absolutely did not hear in the moment. You see, sometimes the most unsettling paranormal evidence isn't captured during a ghost hunt, but is sitting quietly in your own digital archives, waiting for you to notice it. To make matters worse, she wasn't the only living thing in the video that sensed something was wrong. Pay close attention to the stray cat in the frame. Animals have a visual and auditory frequency range far beyond human capabilities, and this cat is completely hyperfixated on a blank wall, locked onto something that the camera lens simply cannot see. Turn your volume up and take a listen.
Chicken.
Audio pareidolia is a psychological phenomenon where our brains try to find familiar words in static or distortion. But what happens when multiple people hear different yet equally terrifying things? Neighbors who reviewed the footage claim the voice is whispering silence, while others are convinced it says Satan. The woman herself hears something closer to a guttural "get out." But this audio anomaly is just the tip of the iceberg, because this entire townhouse complex seems to be an active paranormal hotspot. The local kids report seeing figures in the dark, and multiple mothers have complained of doorknobs twisting on their own and unexplained heavy knocking echoing through the shared walls. Inside the woman's own home, the activity has taken on the chilling characteristics of a mimic. Her mother frequently hears her daughter's voice, calling out when she isn't even home. On one occasion, while the woman was in the shower, blasting music, her mother clearly heard someone whistling just outside the bathroom door. Even the family dog, Zaya, is acting like the house is under siege. Recently, the dog abruptly sat up and began aggressively growling at an empty room. After doing a full tactical sweep of the house, Zaya finally took up a defensive post at the top of the stairs, silently waiting for whatever she had tracked to come up. When the animals in your house are standing guard and the videos on your phone are whispering to you, it might be time to break the lease. What word did you hear hidden in that audio? This next clip taps into one of the most universal childhood fears, toys that seem to have a life of their own. The footage shows someone lying in bed in a dark room while their baby doll randomly begins singing at 2 a.m. Before we watch, we have to address the most common skeptical explanation. Whenever a video like this surfaces, people immediately argue that there is nothing paranormal happening and that the creepy, distorted audio is simply the result of dying batteries. And on a surface level, they are right about the sound. As battery voltage drops, a toy's sound chip slows down, stretching a cheerful song into a demonic drone. But that explanation fundamentally ignores the mechanics of how these toys actually operate. A dying battery does not magically close an open circuit. For an electronic doll to play its audio sequence, a physical trigger must be activated. A button pushed on its stomach, a hand squeezed, or a string pulled. Keep that terrifying reality in mind as you listen to the singing and pay very close attention to the laugh at the very end. The batteries might be dying, but the energy source isn't the problem. The reality is that for this doll to start singing at 2 a.m., something else in that dark room had to walk over and physically squeeze it. It completely changes the context of the footage. Commenters immediately recognize the danger, urging the creator to light a match, burn the doll, and get out, calling whatever squeezed that toy a demon. To make matters even more unsettling, the original poster ominously replied to the panic by stating, "The archives contain even darker things than this." So what do you think is happening here? I'll leave you to be the judge. This next clip comes from a home surveillance system back in 2018, shared by a woman who had been experiencing a string of odd occurrences at her former home. When we think of poltergeist activity, we usually picture violent chaos, things being thrown off counters, glass shattering, or doors slamming in the dark. But what happens when an unseen presence decides to do the exact opposite and starts organizing your living room? In the footage, you can see a pair of white shoes left sitting out of place, right in the middle of the area rug. Watch what happens to the environment, the strange orbs drifting through the room, and especially the white shoes. The person who posted this playfully asked if this was simply a tidy ghost who just wants everything in its place. As you just saw, the white shoes were physically moved from the center of the rug directly to the area where the rest of the household shoes are kept. But from a paranormal investigator's perspective, an entity cleaning up after you isn't actually a helpful domestic quirk. It is a deeply territorial display of power. Spirits that engage in this kind of hyper-specific, organizational kinetic movement are often trapped in a domestic loop, obsessively maintaining a home they no longer own. Or, even more sinister, it's an intelligent entity aggressively enforcing its own rules on the current occupants. By moving your personal belongings to where it thinks they belong, the entity is sending a quiet but heavily controlling message. You are merely a guest in this house, and you need to respect their space. If a ghost starts doing your chores just to prove a point, how long until it decides you are the thing that is out of place? In this next clip, we see the stark difference between a haunting that merely wants to be heard and one that wants to be physically felt. For a while, this guy had been dealing with the former. He had been hearing unexplained sounds echoing through his house and catching glimpses of things moving in his kitchen out of the corner of his eye. It was unsettling, but it hadn't escalated into outright violence. That all changed on a completely average evening. He was just upstairs trying to watch a baseball game when a massive, violently loud bang echoed from the lower level. Grabbing his phone, he heads downstairs to see what on earth could have made that much noise. What he finds proves that whatever is in his house isn't just making sounds anymore.
Alright, so I was just up watching the baseball game and I heard a loud fucking bang down here. Oh shit. Okay. What the fuck? 1, 2, 3. Oh shit. Okay, so that's what I heard. All the chairs knocked down backwards. Holy fuck. What was that? What the fuck was that? Something just flashed in front of the basement steps. Holy shit, this is really freaking me out. Holy shit. Oh my god.
That is what a sudden, explosive release of kinetic energy looks like. The dining room has been completely trashed, with heavy wooden chairs thrown backward and knocked entirely onto the floor. This level of physical displacement requires an immense amount of deliberate force. In paranormal theory, when an entity physically manipulates the environment to this extreme degree, it requires a massive concentration of raw energy. If something has the power to generate that much force and throw heavy furniture around while you are just sitting upstairs, what is stopping it from walking up those stairs next? What do you think caused all that commotion? I'll let you be the judge. In this next clip, we move away from private homes and look at the after-hours footage of a commercial space. There is a very specific, lonely kind of quiet that falls over a restaurant bar after all the patrons have gone home and the staff is locking up. But as this footage shows, just because the building is closed doesn't mean it's empty. The video focuses on a tiled patio area where 2 large industrial-wheeled trash bins are parked side by side in the dark. Watch what happens to the grey bin on the right. As you just saw, the trash can on the right begins to smoothly and deliberately roll across the tiles entirely on its own. Now, skeptics might immediately jump to the wind as an explanation. But consider the physics of the object. These are heavy, commercial-grade bins. A strong gust of wind might catch a lid or even tip an empty, top-heavy bin over, but it takes sustained, directional kinetic force to smoothly push a wheeled object of that size across a textured tile floor. Also, if it was wind, it would affect both bins and not just one. It leaves us with that lingering, unsettling question regarding poltergeist activity. Why this object? An entity manipulating a mundane, heavy object like a trash bin isn't trying to send a complex message. It is simply flexing its ability to interact with the physical world, proving that it has the density to move things in our reality. So, what do you think this was? The following clip you're about to watch comes from a family who brought home a toy from grandma's house. Brand new, still in the packaging, with fresh batteries they put in themselves since none were included. And then it started moving on its own. To get ahead of the obvious explanation, they do something smart. They place the remote control on the floor beside the toy in full view of the camera, so there is no question about whether anyone's hands are on it. Take a look.
Strange situation. This little thing, this little doll, seems to be moving on its own. The remote for it right here, you have to press the button for it to go forward or backwards. But earlier, it was just moving a little bit forward or a little bit backwards on its own. Yeah, weird. Yeah, the remote's right there. Unless it's like a glitch or something?
I don't know. I'm gonna put the remote control right here. See? Nobody touch it. See?
Huh. This is weird. What could be causing that?
I don't know. And this is
New toy, new batteries, remote on the floor, and yet there it is. What makes this one particularly interesting is where the toy came from, Grandma's house. And that detail, as innocent as it sounds, opens a door that a lot of people in the comments walked straight through. Objects that pass through older homes, that sit in spaces with long histories and then get handed down, carry with them everything that space has absorbed over the years. Not the object itself necessarily, but the energy it moved through, the hands that held it, the rooms it sat in. In many paranormal traditions, the idea of an object arriving in a new home and bringing something along with it is not just possible, but considered one of the more common ways activity begins in previously quiet spaces. A brand new toy that's never been used shouldn't have a history, but the house it came from might. Whatever is making that toy move has been in the family longer than the toy has. And the question worth sitting with is whether Grandma's house was as quiet as everyone thought it was. What do you think about this one? This next clip comes from a shop owner who was lying at home reviewing her security camera footage late at night. And what she saw on that playback was not what she was expecting. Her apprentice had stayed back to close up after a late customer, and that's when things started going sideways. The door simply wouldn't close. She kept trying, pulling it shut repeatedly, and it wouldn't catch, until the light inside the shop turned on by itself. At that point, the apprentice did something that honestly takes a certain kind of nerve. She walked back in, switched the light off, and said out loud, "Let me go home, don't mess with me." And just like that, she was able to lock the door and leave. But when the owner reviewed the footage from home, she noticed something her apprentice never saw. After she left, the lights came back on. Also, 2 of the machines inside the shop switched themselves on. Whatever was in that shop that night listened when she asked to be left alone, waited for her to go. And then, the moment she was gone, made itself completely at home. It let her leave, but it clearly had no intention of leaving itself. And that raises the question of what exactly she was sharing that shop with every single night before this one. I'll leave you to be the judge.